All right, hi everybody. Jim over here at JP Property Consulting. So hopefully you've watched my video already on application screening criteria, which was the minimum required criteria you're going to put into place in order to make sure that somebody qualifies to live at your property. Now we're actually going to go through the procedure of actually processing that application and making sure that they do meet that criteria, those standards that you set. You're going to do the process of the application processing in writing as much as you can too as well. So when you are going to verify their income, or you're going to verify their landlord or their housing verification, try to do as much of this in writing and get this documented as much, and keep the documentations printed out and keep them with the file for as many of these steps as you possibly can. The reason for that is to show that you're going to be doing that you do the same process with each and every applicant. So be sure to try to do everything in writing, and every time you process a step, print it out and then keep it with the file. Now that said, so first step we're going to do, this video, we're going to talk about the income verification and the housing verification portion of it. I'm going to do another video later on talking about the credit report and the importance of that. So I hope all of you are doing credit reports. If you are not, later on, I'm going to put a video out showing the importance of the credit report and the information that you find on there, which is not necessarily just their credit score. We're going to look at a whole bunch of other things on that. But for today, we're just going to talk about the income verification and the housing verification, their landlord or their home foreclosure, if they have that, or their house payments and so on. So income verification. Be sure that you're specifying that you do an income verification, not necessarily an employment verification. Understand those are two different things to that HUD agent that is going to look at you and say, well, they want to make sure that you're not specifying that someone actually has to be an able-bodied individual and get up and go to work every day. Right? That's not necessarily true, correct? This person could be on Social Security or other forms of legal income, such as retirement benefits and so on. So you're going to make sure you're saying income verification and not specifying that you need an employment verification done. That's first and foremost. Then have a form that you're going to use that you're going to actually send to their source of income. So to make that the most common, most easiest one, let's talk about employment, for example. So you're going to have a form that you're going to send to their employer, hopefully. And then this form will have all the questions that you want answered, and then they're going to do this in writing and send the form back to you so that you have verification that you're doing the same process and step with each and every person. That said, a couple things that you want to get. You want to find out their dates of employment. With this, you're going to make sure you're going to ask, is this source of income, whether, if it's an employer, for example, is this source of income permanent? You don't want to hear that it's temporary and their job is ending next month, or this source of income is going to be ending in 3 months from now. So one of the questions that you want to be asking them is this permanent income? Was this source of income? Or they may be going part-time next month. So they may give you a dollar amount that, yes, they're making X amount of dollars right now, but that's going to all change next month because they're going to part-time. So be sure you're asking, is this permanent? That's important. And then have them sign off on this. And then you're going to want to get their gross monthly income, their dollar amount, and then make sure that matches up with what your screening criteria makes them have. Now, so the next step is with the housing verification form. One thing that I notice a lot of small landlords do, and a lot of small mom and pop companies don't do, that we're trained to do at the big companies, is research all the addresses that come up. So not only the addresses that they put down on their application, but we're going to talk about later on in one of my other videos about running the credit report, and we're going to look at all the addresses that come up on that credit report. So you're going to research their current address, and it'll show a couple previous addresses on that credit report as well. When you run their criminal history, if you print out, even if it's a traffic report or whatever it is that comes up, even if it's something that you're not going to disqualify them for on that criminal history, still print out that, or not necessarily print out, but open up that report. And if there is an address on there that's not listed on their application or on their credit report that you'll see, print that out and show that you're going to now research that address. What I mean by researching that address, you can contact the city assessor for each one of these towns and cities and municipalities, and it is public information as to who owns that parcel of land or who owns that property. You can then match up their last name of that owner with the last name that they give you on their application, as well as the last name of those aliases that you're going to see on that credit report as well too. So by doing this, you're going to discover whether this is a relative that's giving you information or not. If it's not, and if you research this address and it comes up as ABC Apartments or XYZ Property Management Company, now you're going to have that little section on their application that they signed that says that they're allowing you to go through and do your process. Send that signature form with your landlord verification form that has all the list of questions that you were asking them, and send them to that management company that you just discovered owns that property that you saw on their credit report or you saw on their application on there. So research all these addresses and look at the city assessor sites. A lot of times they'll just allow you to type in the address and it'll pop up and tell you who the owner is. Or if it doesn't have that, you have the ability to contact the city assessor, and that's public information as to who owns that property. So that's one thing to do. Make sure you're doing that and you're researching all these addresses. Now, that said, when you send this form to the landlord or the housing provider, have a list of questions that you're asked, and you're going to do this because you want to make sure that you're asking the same exact questions to every single applicant, and you want to show that you're doing that. So you don't ever want to get into a situation where just because you've got kind of an icky feeling about somebody, you're going to then ask a few more questions with this guy that you normally would not ask with Grandma Ethel, or so you want to make sure that you're showing that you're not digging further into this guy's application by asking their landlord or their previous landlord a whole slew of questions that you are not asking about Grandma Ethel's landlord, right? And the way you're going to show that is by showing this in writing. So do this step in writing and then have the same list of questions that you're going to ask for every single applicant. Those questions should entail things like their dates of occupancy, so when they live there, and then match that up with what they have on their application. Match that up with all their other addresses that are coming back. And then therefore, if you can find some sort of a gap in their occupancy somewhere, research that, ask them about that, and find out where were you at that time, or try to figure out, this by doing some more research. Get their rent amount. If their rent amount is jumping up significantly, that shouldn't really raise too many bells and whistles, but just find out how much their rent was. And then their dates, we mentioned their dates of occupancy. Was rent paid on time? Were there any lease violations? Any damages that were caused, if there's any amount that's currently owed right now. So that's that also in case you want to make sure they don't owe a previous landlord any money. That should be one of your criteria that you have for renting at your places. Is that you cannot owe a previous housing provider money. Housing provider also means your bank that is giving you your mortgage loan. So if there's a mortgage foreclosure, that's an automatic decline if we see that on the credit report. Or if we treat mortgage payments, if you've been late on your mortgage payments, the same way we would being late on rent as well. And then ask them, obviously, would you re-rent to this person? Those are some questions to ask, have them sign off on it, and again, keep that documentation. With this also, I talk about, later on, we talk about when you're declining applications, be sure you're keeping all your declined applications for that specific period of time. There are certain states that will require a little bit longer period of time, but federally, they have up to 1 year to make a fair housing complaint on you. So therefore, you want to make sure that you're not just keeping your current occupant or your current tenants for a specified period of time, but make sure you're keeping any applications or declined applications for that period of time. And in some states, it may be up to 2 years or longer. Find out what your jurisdiction says that they have in order to make a fair housing complaint on you, and then hang on to those declined applications just in case for that period of time as well. Those are some tips real quick for today. Stay tuned. I've got a whole bunch of other videos. Please like and subscribe. I've got a lot more coming on the way. I have a website, jppropertyconsulting.com, where I do full all classes on these topics, and it's a whole course that we do. I do about 4 different courses. One is on fair housing, another one is on application and screening processing, the other one is on marketing and leasing tactics, where we talk about safety protocol and different ways to creative ways for marketing your properties, and then property operations of things that we do with the large apartment communities after move-in day, for retaining residents and keeping your residents happy and so on, and different maintenance tips and so on. Just to give you a little bit of background of where I come from, I come from the large management companies, the big 500, 600 unit apartment communities. I've been in the business for almost 30 years. So my training is comes from a little bit different background than from some of these mom and pop landlords that are giving other mom and pop landlords advice. I come from the big, larger end of the property management spectrum, and kind of give you guys an insight of how we train our associates at those big companies. So again, if that sounds interesting to you, go check out my website, jppropertyconsulting.com, and hope you like and subscribe and check out some of my other videos. Thanks for watching, guys.